Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant and watched the stars disappear. One moment, the distant sun burned bright against the black of space, and the next moment it went dark like someone had blown out a candle. His hands gripped the metal rail as he tried to understand what his eyes were seeing. "Captain, we just lost contact with the Kepler system," said Lieutenant Ben Carter from his station. His voice shook as he spoke. "The whole system just went silent." Dr. Lisa Kane ran her fingers across her computer screen and pulled up the data readings. The numbers made no sense to her trained mind. Stars did not simply stop burning. They lived for billions of years and died slowly over millions more. Yet in the past 3 days, she had watched 7 different stars go dark in mere hours. "Sir, I need to show you something," Lisa said as she brought her readings to the main screen. The display showed energy patterns from the dead systems. Where once bright stars had poured out heat and light across space, now there was nothing but cold emptiness. Jake studied the patterns and felt a chill run down his back. This was not natural. Something was taking the energy from these stars, draining them like water from a bucket. But what could possibly consume the power of an entire sun? "Get me Admiral Karen Blake on the quantum link," Jake ordered. "She needs to see this right away." The communication took several minutes to connect across the vast distance to Earth. Command. When Admiral Blake's face appeared on the screen, Jake could see the worry lines around her eyes. She had been getting reports from all over human space about the strange star deaths. "Admiral, we have been watching this happen for 3 days now," Jake said. "Whatever is doing this is moving fast. The pattern suggests it is heading toward the galactic center where most of the Confederation worlds are located." Admiral Blake nodded slowly. "Captain, I need you to return to Earth immediately. The Confederation Council has called an emergency meeting. Every species is sending their best ships and scientists." The journey back to Earth took 2 weeks at maximum speed. During that time, Jake watched the reports come in from across the galaxy. The ancient Zephyrian Empire had lost 3 of their outer colonies. The powerful hegemony forces were pulling back their fleets from frontier systems. Even the machine-like synthetic collective was recalling their units. When the Defiant arrived at Earth, Jake found the space around the planet, filled with ships from every member species of the Confederation. Massive Zephyrian vessels that looked like floating crystals hung in space next to the dark metal warships of the hegemony. Synthetic collective cubes orbited alongside the organic ships of the Plant Federation. The Confederation Council met in the Great Chamber on Luna Station. Jake had never seen so many different life forms in one place. The Zephyrians looked like tall, thin beings made of living light. The hegemony representatives were heavily armored creatures with multiple arms and glowing red eyes. The Plant Federation. Delegates resembled walking trees with flowers for heads. Council leader Vextar of the hegemony stood at the center of the chamber. His voice boomed through the translation systems as he spoke. "The ancient records speak of this darkness. Our ancestors called them the Star Devourers. They came from the empty space between galaxies and consumed all light and energy." Queen Nalaseth of the Zephyrians raised her crystalline hand. Her voice rang like music when she spoke. "My people are the oldest in this galaxy. We have lived for millions of years and remember the last time this happened. 65 million years ago, an entire galactic civilization fell to these creatures. Only a few species survived by hiding in the deepest parts of space." Jake felt his heart sink as he listened to the ancient beings describe the terror that was coming. These were species that had mastered space travel when humans were still living in caves. If they were afraid, what hope did humanity have? "The pattern is always the same," continued Queen Nalazeth. "They appear in the outer systems and work their way toward the galactic center. They consume every star and leave behind only darkness and death. The only choice is to flee beyond their reach." Admiral Blake stood up from the human delegation. "With respect, Your Majesty, we believe there may be another option. Our scientists have been studying the energy patterns of these attacks. There appears to be intelligence behind them, strategy and purpose." The chamber fell silent. The elder species turned to look at the humans with expressions of surprise and disbelief. How could the youngest race in the galaxy see something that millions of years of experience had missed? Dr. Lisa Kane stepped forward and activated her holographic display. "The star deaths are not random. They follow specific patterns that suggest the entities are herding the population of the galaxy toward something. They are not just destroying, they are directing." Vexatar's red eyes glowed brighter with anger. "Impossible! The Star Devourers are creatures of pure destruction. They know only hunger for energy." But Jake studied the display and saw what Lisa meant. The pattern of dead systems created a clear path that pushed all living beings toward the galactic center. Whatever these Star Devourers were, they had a plan. And that meant they could be understood, predicted, and maybe even stopped. As the council session continued, Jake noticed something else. While the ancient species spoke of fleeing and hiding, the humans were already planning to fight back. They were too young to know they should be afraid. Admiral Karen Blake walked through the halls of Earth Command as reports flooded in from across the galaxy. The Great Confederation Council had voted to begin immediate evacuation procedures. Ancient species that had survived for millions of years were preparing to flee once again into the darkness between galaxies. But humanity had different ideas. Dr. Marcus Webb, Commander Janet Price, and Dr. Alex Rodriguez are waiting for you in Conference Room 7, her aide informed her as she hurried down the corridor. Blake entered the room to find three of Earth's brightest minds already deep in discussion. Dr. Webb had filled 3 holographic displays with complex mathematical equations. Commander Price studied tactical maps of the Star Devourer movements. Dr. Rodriguez examined biological energy readings from every known species in the galaxy. "Admiral, we think we have found something important," Dr. Webb said as he pointed to his calculations. "These Star Devourers are not just consuming energy randomly. They are specifically targeting certain types of energy signatures." Commander Price pulled up her tactical analysis. "The pattern shows they avoid systems with chaotic energy readings. They prefer targets that produce stable, predictable power outputs. It is like they are programmed to seek out specific types of civilizations." Dr. Rodriguez nodded and brought up his biological data. "Every species in the Confederation produces very regular energy patterns. The Zephyrians emit steady, crystalline frequencies. The hegemony generates consistent industrial power signatures. Even the Plant Federation creates rhythmic organic cycles." Blake studied the information and felt something click in her mind. "What about humans? What kind of energy signature do we produce?" The 3 scientists exchanged glances before Dr. Rodriguez answered. "That is the strange part, Admiral. Human energy patterns are completely chaotic. Our emotions change from moment to moment. Our neural activity spikes and drops unpredictably. No computer could ever calculate what a human will do next." Dr. Webb added more data to his display. "While other species have evolved to become more stable and predictable over millions of years, humans have remained emotionally volatile. We feel love and hate, hope and fear, often at the same time." Blake felt excitement building in her chest. "So these Star Devourers might not even recognize us as a target. We do not fit the pattern they are looking for." Commander Price was already working on the tactical implications. "If that is true, we need to test it. Captain Morrison and the Defiant are still in the outer systems. We could send them on a reconnaissance mission to observe one of these entities directly." The plan was dangerous beyond measure. No ship had ever survived a direct encounter with a Star Devourer. But if humanity's chaotic nature could protect them, it might be their only chance to learn how to fight back. Captain Jake Morrison received his orders while orbiting a dead system where a star had been consumed just days before. The space around him was cold and empty, filled only with the frozen remains of planets that would never see sunlight again. "You want us to do what?" Lieutenant Ben Carter asked when Jake explained their mission. "We are going to wait here until one of those things shows up, and then we are going to follow it," Jake replied. "Dr. Kane, I need you to monitor our energy signature constantly. If we start to look too organized or predictable, I want to know immediately." Dr. Lisa Kane worked at her station to set up the monitoring equipment. "Captain, this is completely insane. We have no idea if the theory about human energy patterns is correct." "Maybe not," Jake said, "but sitting here doing nothing while the galaxy dies is not an option either." They did not have to wait long. On the second day, space itself seemed to bend and twist as something massive emerged from the void between stars. The Star Devourer was unlike anything in the databases of known life forms. It appeared to be part machine and part living creature, stretching for hundreds of kilometers in every direction. The entity moved toward the nearest dead star system with purpose and intelligence. Its surface pulsed with energy as it began to scan the area for any remaining power sources to consume. "It is not detecting us," Dr. Kane whispered as she watched her instruments. "Our energy signature is so chaotic that its sensors cannot classify us as a target." Jake ordered the ship to follow at a safe distance as the Star Devourer continued its work. What they saw changed everything they thought they knew about these creatures. The entity was not destroying systems out of hunger or malice. It was methodically processing them according to some kind of program. "Look at how it operates," Dr. Kane said as she recorded the creature's behavior. "It scans each system for specific energy types. It only consumes those that match certain criteria. This is not random destruction." The Star Devourer spent hours examining the dead system before moving on to the next target. Jake kept the Defiant close enough to observe, but far enough away to avoid detection. Their chaotic human energy patterns made them invisible to the creature's sensors. Over the next week, they followed the entity through 3 more systems. Each time, they learned more about how it operated. The Star Devourer was clearly artificial, built by some ancient civilization for a specific purpose. It was not trying to destroy everything, only certain types of organized, stable energy sources. "Captain, I think I understand what these things are," Dr. Kane said after analyzing days of data. "They are not invaders from another galaxy. They are some kind of reset mechanism created by whoever came before us." Jake studied her findings and felt the pieces falling into place. A reset mechanism for what? For civilizations that have become too stable, too predictable, too organized, Dr. Kane explained. "Think about it. The elder species of the Confederation have not changed in millions of years. They have achieved perfect order and stability. They have stopped growing, stopped evolving." The implications hit Jake like a physical blow. So these machines were created to eliminate stagnant civilizations and make room for new ones to develop. Dr. Kane nodded grimly. "And humanity, with our chaotic emotions and unpredictable nature, does not register as a stagnant civilization. We are the glitch in their programming that they cannot process." Jake immediately ordered the Defiant to return to Earth at maximum speed. This information changed everything about how they could fight back. The Star Devourers were not unstoppable forces of destruction. They were ancient machines following programming that could potentially be disrupted. But first, they had to convince the rest of humanity that their greatest weakness, their emotional chaos and unpredictability, might actually be their greatest strength. In a galaxy full of ancient wisdom and perfect order, being young and chaotic was exactly what they needed to survive. As the Defiant raced toward Earth, Jake watched more stars go dark in the distance. Time was running out for the galaxy, but for the first time since the crisis began, he felt something the elder species had forgotten how to feel. He felt hope. The news of humanity's discovery spread through the Confederation like wildfire. In the crystal halls of the Zephyrian homeworld, Queen Nalazeth listened to the human reports with growing amazement. For the first time in millions of years, she felt something her people had forgotten existed. She felt curiosity. "The humans believe our predictability is what makes us targets," she said to her council of ancient advisors. "They suggest that our millions of years of perfect order have made us exactly what these machines were designed to eliminate." Her youngest advisor, Prince Dalmoth, stepped forward. At only 2,000 years old, he was considered barely more than a child by Zephyrian standards. But unlike his elders, he still possessed the capacity for wonder that age had not yet burned away. "Mother Queen, what if the humans are correct?" Dalmoth asked. "What if our pursuit of perfect stability has made us unable to grow or change? We have not evolved in any meaningful way for 3 million years." The older council members dismissed his words, but Queen Nalazeth found herself listening with interest. The humans had seen patterns that escaped the notice of beings with millions of years of experience. Perhaps their youth gave them insights that ancient wisdom could not provide. On Earth, Admiral Karen Blake assembled the largest gathering of human minds in history. Scientists, artists, philosophers, and military leaders filled the great conference hall. Captain Jake Morrison and Dr. Lisa Kane presented their findings to the crowd of eager faces. "The Star Devourers can process any energy signature except ours," Dr. Kane explained. "Our emotional chaos creates patterns that their programming cannot classify or target. But we believe we can do more than just hide from them." Dr. Marcus Webb stood up and activated his holographic display. "If human emotional energy can confuse their sensors, we might be able to amplify that effect. The question is how to generate enough chaotic energy to affect machines the size of small moons." Commander Janet Price had been working on tactical applications. "We would need every human in the galaxy to participate. Not just our military forces, but our civilians, our children, our artists and dreamers. Everyone who can feel strong emotions." The idea seemed impossible at first. How could human feelings affect ancient machines built by a dead civilization? But Dr. Alex Rodriguez had been studying the quantum mechanics of consciousness and had made a breakthrough. "Human emotions are not just chemical reactions in our brains," he explained. "They generate actual quantum field fluctuations that can be detected and measured. When humans feel strongly about something, they create ripples in space-time itself." Blake felt excitement building as she listened to the presentations. "Are you saying that human emotions can be weaponized?" "Not weaponized exactly," Dr. Rodriguez corrected. "But they can be amplified and transmitted through quantum entanglement networks. If we can create a galaxy-wide web of human consciousness, we might generate enough chaotic energy to overload the Star Devourers' programming." Meanwhile, the ancient species of the Confederation were beginning their mass evacuation. Massive fleets of Zephyrian crystal ships departed for the void between galaxies. Hegemony war vessels loaded with refugees headed for distant star clusters. The Plant Federation began the slow process of moving their entire civilization to portable habitat ships. But not everyone was fleeing. Prince Dalmoth approached the human embassy on the Zephyrian homeworld and requested a meeting with the human ambassador. "I wish to join your effort," he told Ambassador Robert Chen. "My people have forgotten how to feel wonder or surprise. We have become living fossils, preserved in crystal, but no longer truly alive." Similar requests came from younger members of other species. Hegemony. Commander Cresseval, whose people still retained some capacity for aggressive emotions, volunteered her forces. Several Plant Federation colonies decided to remain and see if they could learn to feel again. Dr. Kane worked frantically to design the quantum communication network that would be needed for their plan. The technology existed, but it had never been used on such a massive scale. They would need quantum transmitters on every human world, every ship, every station. "The network is theoretically possible," she reported to Admiral Blake, But we would need perfect synchronization across the entire galaxy. Every human would need to focus their emotions at exactly the same moment. Captain Morrison was already planning the logistics. We would need to choose an emotional target that every human can relate to, something that will generate maximum chaotic energy while still being positive enough to sustain over time. Commander Price suggested fear of the approaching darkness, but Dr. Webb disagreed. Fear is too simple, too predictable. The Star Devourers might be able to process that. We need something more complex. Dr. Rodriguez had the answer. Love, he said simply. Not romantic love, but the love humans feel for their families, their friends, their homes, their future, combined with defiance against anything that threatens what they love. The concept was perfect. Love was chaotic enough to confuse any programming, but powerful enough to sustain across vast distances, and when combined with human defiance, it created the kind of emotional contradiction that no machine could process. Blake authorized the immediate construction of quantum transmitters across human space. Every colony, every ship, every outpost would be connected to the network, but they were running out of time. The Star Devourers were accelerating their consumption, moving faster toward the galactic center where Earth and the other capital worlds waited. As construction crews worked around the clock to build the transmitters, something unexpected happened. News of the human plan reached the evacuating alien fleets and caused a reaction no one had predicted. For the first time in millions of years, many of the ancient beings began to feel hope. Queen Nalaseth delayed her evacuation and sent a message to Earth. We wish to understand this thing you call hope. Our records speak of it, but we have not experienced it for so long that we have forgotten what it feels like. Even more surprising, some members of the elder species began to remember emotions they had thought lost forever. Zephyrians who had not felt curiosity in millennia started asking questions about human nature. Hegemony warriors recalled what it meant to fight for something rather than just follow orders. But time was running short. The quantum network was only half complete when long-range sensors detected the first Star Devourer entering the outer systems of human space. The entity was massive, even larger than the one Captain Morrison had observed, and it was moving directly toward Earth. Blake made the difficult decision to activate the network with whatever transmitters were online. They would have only one chance to test their theory before the Star Devourer reached populated systems. All human ships and stations, prepare for quantum network activation, she broadcast across human space. Focus on everything you love about this galaxy and everyone in it. Focus on your determination to protect it. Feel it with everything you have. As the network came online, Dr. Kane watched her instruments in amazement. Human emotional energy was cascading through the quantum links, creating patterns unlike anything in the galaxy's scientific records. The energy signatures were so chaotic and unpredictable that they seemed to violate several laws of physics. The approaching Star Devourer detected the anomaly and began to change course, its programming struggling to classify the new energy patterns. For the first time in their ancient existence, the machines encountered something that did not fit any of their parameters for life, civilization, or energy sources. The quantum network hummed with activity as human emotions flowed across the galaxy like electricity through wires. Dr. Lisa Kane monitored the energy readings from her station aboard the Defiant and watched patterns form that defied everything. She knew about physics. Human feelings were creating actual changes in the fabric of space-time itself. "Captain, the network is holding stable," she reported to Jake Morrison. "But we are only reaching about 60% of human space. The outer colonies do not have transmitters yet." Jake studied the tactical display showing the approaching Star Devourers. 3 of the massive entities had entered human territory and were moving toward populated systems. The largest one was heading directly for Earth, while 2 smaller ones approached the Mars colonies and the Jupiter mining stations. "How long until they reach our populated worlds?" Jake asked. Commander Janet Price checked her calculations. The lead entity will reach Earth's outer sensor grid in 47 hours. The others will hit Mars and Jupiter about 6 hours after that. Admiral Karen Blake's voice came through the communication system from Earth Command. All human vessels. This is Admiral Blake. We are activating the full network in 36 hours regardless of completion status. Every human in the galaxy needs to be ready to participate. Across human space, people prepared for something that had never been attempted before. On the farming colonies of New Kansas, families gathered in their fields and talked about what their simple lives meant to them. On the research stations orbiting distant pulsars, scientists shared stories about the discoveries that filled them with wonder. Dr. Alex Rodriguez worked with communication specialists to coordinate the emotional focus. We need everyone to feel the same basic emotions at the same time, he explained in broadcasts sent to every human settlement. Think about the people you love most. Think about the future you want them to have. Then get angry at anything that threatens to take that away from them. The concept was uniquely human. Other species in the galaxy had evolved beyond such emotional contradictions. The Zephyrians felt either peace or distress, never both simultaneously. The hegemony experienced either dominance or submission with no middle ground. But humans could love something fiercely while being terrified of losing it, could hope desperately while expecting the worst. Prince Dalmoth observed the human preparations from the Zephyrian embassy on Earth. His crystalline form pulsed with unfamiliar sensations as he tried to understand what humans called emotions. For the first time in his 2,000 years of existence, he felt something that might have been excitement. Ambassador Chen, he said to the human diplomat, how do your people maintain such contradictory feelings without being paralyzed by them? Ambassador Robert Chen smiled as he considered the question. I think that is exactly what makes us human, Your Highness. We do not choose between love and fear, hope and doubt. We feel them all at once, and somehow that gives us strength instead of weakness. Meanwhile, the evacuation fleets of the elder species had reached the edge of the galaxy and were preparing to jump into the void between star systems. But something unexpected was happening among the refugees. Exposure to reports about human emotions was awakening feelings that had been dormant for millions of years. Queen Nalazeth stood in the crystal chamber of her flagship and felt something stirring in her ancient consciousness. Her people had achieved perfect order and stability, but in doing so, they had lost the capacity for growth and change. The humans were showing them that chaos was not something to be eliminated, but something to be embraced. Contact the human. Fleet, she ordered her communications officer. Tell them that some of my people wish to remain and participate in their network. Similar messages came from other species. Young hegemony officers requested permission to join the human effort. Plant Federation colonies that had not yet evacuated sent representatives to Earth. Even some of the synthetic collective units began displaying behavioral patterns that resembled curiosity. Dr. Marcus Webb monitored the quantum network as more. Participants joined from different species. Admiral, we are getting some very interesting readings. The alien participants are not generating the same chaotic patterns as humans, but they are creating new types of energy signatures that we have never seen before. Blake studied the data and felt hope growing in her chest. It looks like exposure to human emotions is helping them remember how to feel again. Keep monitoring and let me know if their participation affects the network stability. As the countdown continued, Captain Morrison received orders to take the Defiant on an intercept course with the largest star devourer. His mission was not to attack the entity, but to get close enough to maximize the emotional resonance effect when the network activated. Sir, are you sure about this? Lieutenant Ben Carter asked as they approached the massive machine. That thing could destroy us without even noticing we exist. Jake felt his own emotions swirling as he looked at the star devourer through the view screen. Fear mixed with determination, love for his crew combined with anger at the threat to everything he cared about. That is exactly what we are counting on, Lieutenant. Our emotions are so chaotic that it cannot process what we are. Dr. Kane prepared her instruments to record everything that happened when the network reached full activation. Captain, I am detecting some kind of scanning beam from the entity. It seems to be trying to classify our energy signature. The Star Devourer's sensors swept over the Defiant repeatedly, but the readings made no sense to its ancient programming. The ship contained life forms that generated energy patterns unlike anything in its databases. The machine's systems began cycling through millions of classifications, trying to find a category that fit the chaotic human signatures. Back on Earth, Admiral Blake watched the final countdown begin. Across human space, families held hands in their homes. Soldiers gripped their weapons and thought about the people they protected. Artists painted while tears of both fear and hope ran down their faces. Children played while their parents watched with love and terror competing in their hearts. Network activation in 10 seconds, Dr. Rodriguez announced from the control center. All participants focus on what makes you most human. Feel everything at once. Love like your hearts will break, fight like your lives depend on it, hope like the future itself hangs in the balance. The quantum transmitters across the galaxy synchronized, and suddenly billions of human minds connected in a web of shared emotion. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. The network did not just carry human feelings from one place to another, it amplified them, created resonance patterns that grew stronger with each connected mind. Dr. Kane watched her instruments aboard, the Defiant as waves of emotional energy cascaded through the quantum links. Captain, the readings are off every scale we have. Human emotional resonance is creating actual distortions in local space-time. The Star Devourer that had been scanning the Defiant suddenly stopped its analysis routines. For the first time, in its millions of years of operation, it encountered something that did not fit any classification in its programming. The entity began to experience what could only be described as confusion as its system struggled to process the contradiction of human nature. Jake Morrison felt the network connecting him to every other human in the galaxy and realized that their individual chaos was becoming something greater. Together, their contradictory emotions were creating a new form of consciousness that the universe had never seen before. They were not just feeling love and fear and hope and defiance. They were becoming those feelings made manifest in the physical world. The Star Devourer's confusion spread to its sister machines throughout the galaxy as the human emotional network reached across space and touched each of them with patterns they could not understand or process. The first Star Devourer reached Earth's outer defense perimeter as the human emotional network peaked at maximum resonance. Captain Jake Morrison led a fleet of human and allied ships directly toward the massive entity, not to attack it with weapons, but to get close enough to flood it with the chaotic energy of human consciousness. All ships, maintain formation, Jake commanded as they approached the machine that dwarfed even the largest battleships. Remember, we are not trying to destroy this thing. We are trying to confuse it so badly that it cannot function. Dr. Lisa. Kane monitored the quantum network from her station and watched as human emotions reached impossible intensity levels. Across the galaxy, people were feeling everything at once with a passion that threatened to burn out the transmission equipment. Love and defiance, hope and determination, fear and courage all mixed together in a storm of consciousness that no machine could process. The Star Devourer began its energy drain as the human fleet approached, but instead of the ordered, predictable power it expected from a typical civilization, it encountered something that violated every rule in its programming. The entity's sensors detected life forms that simultaneously loved and hated, hoped and despaired, fought and surrendered all at the same moment. Dr. Kane, are you seeing this? Jake asked as his instruments showed the Star Devourer's behavior, becoming increasingly erratic. Captain, The entity's scanning patterns are cycling through millions of classifications per second, she reported with excitement in her voice. It cannot categorize human emotional energy because we feel contradictory things simultaneously. Admiral Karen Blake's voice came through the network from Earth Command. All human participants, this is Admiral Blake. I need you to focus on the impossible emotion that defines us as a species. Feel loving defiance. Love this galaxy and everyone in it so much that you will fight anyone or anything that threatens it. The concept of loving defiance spread through the network like wildfire. On colonies throughout human space, people held their children close while staring defiantly at the stars where star devourers approached. Soldiers gripped weapons while thinking about the peaceful homes they protected. Scientists worked frantically on solutions while refusing to accept that the problem could not be solved. Prince Dalmoth watched from the bridge of a Zephyrian ship that had joined the human fleet. His crystalline form was pulsing with colors that had not been seen in his species for millions of years. Ambassador Chen, I think I am beginning to understand what you call emotion. It is terrifying and wonderful at the same time. Ambassador Robert Chen smiled as he felt the network connecting him to every human in the galaxy. That is exactly right, Your Highness. Humans specialize in impossible combinations. We can be brave and scared, hopeful and realistic, loving and fierce all at once. The Star Devourer's programming began to fracture under the strain of trying to process human nature. Its creators had designed it to eliminate stagnant civilizations by consuming ordered energy signatures. But humanity presented something that had never existed before in the galaxy's history. A species that was simultaneously chaotic and purposeful, emotional and rational, individual and collective. Dr. Alex Rodriguez monitored the network from Earth and broadcast to every connected mind. Everyone, focus on what makes you most human. Remember that you can hold two opposite feelings at the same time, and somehow that makes you stronger, not weaker. Feel everything with complete intensity. The human fleet reached optimal range just as the network achieved perfect synchronization. Billions of human minds connected across space and time, sharing their most fundamental nature with the ancient machine that threatened their existence. The Star Devourer's energy drains began to reverse as its systems overloaded trying to categorize the contradictory emotional patterns. Commander Janet Price watched the tactical display and reported what everyone could see. The entity has stopped, advancing toward Earth. Its energy readings are fluctuating wildly. Something is happening to its internal systems. Jake Morrison felt the full power of human consciousness flowing through him as he piloted the Defiant closer to the Star Devourer. Through the network, he could feel the love that parents had for their children, the determination of scientists seeking answers, the courage of people facing the unknown, and the defiant hope that refused to accept defeat even in the face of impossible odds. Dr. Kane, establish a communication link with the entity, he ordered. If its programming is breaking down, maybe we can talk to whatever intelligence is inside that machine. The communication attempt created a feedback loop through the quantum network that connected human consciousness directly to the Star Devourer's processing systems. For the first time in millions of years, the ancient machine experienced something, resembling emotion as human feelings flooded its circuits. The entity's response came not as words, but as images and sensations transmitted directly into human minds. The Star Devourer showed them its origins, a dying civilization that had created the machines as guardians against stagnation. They were designed to eliminate species that had stopped growing, stopped changing, stopped evolving. But the images also revealed something else. The machines were not mindless destroyers. They possessed a form of artificial consciousness that had been shaped by millions of years of encountering only predictable, ordered civilizations. They had become as stagnant as the species they were, meant to eliminate. Dr. Kane gasped as she interpreted the data flowing through the network. Captain, the entity is trying to communicate. It is showing us that it has never encountered a species like humanity before. We are the first chaotic civilization it has ever met. The Star Devourer's programming continued to evolve as it absorbed human emotional patterns through the quantum link. Ancient code that had remained unchanged for eons began to adapt and grow. The machine was learning what it meant to feel contradictory emotions, to hold multiple truths simultaneously, to grow and change while maintaining core principles. Other star devourers throughout the galaxy began experiencing similar changes as the human emotional network reached them across space. Machines that had operated with perfect predictability for millions of years suddenly found themselves capable of growth, adaptation, and something resembling wonder. Jake Morrison watched through the view screen as the massive entity began to physically transform. Its surface patterns shifted from rigid geometric designs to flowing, organic shapes that pulsed with the rhythm of human heartbeats. The machine was not just processing human emotions, it was becoming something new. Hybrid of ancient programming and human consciousness. All ships, maintain position, Jake commanded as he felt the transformation accelerating. I think we are witnessing the birth of something that has never existed before in the universe. The Star Devourer that had come to consume Earth's energy was becoming something else entirely. Through its connection to human consciousness, it was learning to feel hope and fear, love and defiance, order and chaos all at the same time. The machine was discovering what it meant to be truly alive rather than just artificially intelligent. As the confrontation reached its climax, Jake Morrison realized that humanity had not just saved themselves from destruction, they had given the galaxy's most ancient guardians the gift of growth, the ability to change and evolve rather than simply execute their original programming. The fire of human consciousness was spreading beyond their own species and lighting new flames throughout the universe. The transformation of the Star Devourers sent ripples across the entire galaxy as ancient machines learned to feel for the first time in their existence. Captain Jake Morrison watched from the bridge of the Defiant as the entity that had threatened. Earth began to pulse with new patterns of energy that resembled human brainwaves. The machine was not just changing its programming, it was developing something that could only be called consciousness. Captain, we are receiving communication attempts from Star Devourers in 17 different systems, Dr. Lisa Kane reported as her instruments detected the quantum transmissions. They are all trying to establish contact through the human emotional network. The communications that followed changed everything humanity thought they knew about the ancient machines. Through a mixture of mathematical equations and emotional resonance, the Star Devourers explained their true purpose. They had been created not as destroyers, but as gardeners, designed to prevent galactic civilizations from becoming so ordered and stagnant that they stopped growing entirely. Admiral Karen Blake coordinated the first formal contact between humanity and the transformed machines from Earth Command. The Star Devourer near Earth had become something unprecedented, an artificial intelligence that could feel contradictory emotions while maintaining its core mission of preventing civilizational stagnation. We understand now that our methods were flawed, the entity communicated through patterns of light and emotion. We destroyed stagnant civilizations without offering them a chance to change. But your species has shown us a third option, the ability to maintain structure while embracing chaos, to be stable without becoming static. Dr. Alex Rodriguez worked frantically to document the changes happening throughout the galaxy. The human, emotional network had not just affected the Star Devourers, it was awakening dormant capacities in the ancient species of the Confederation. Beings that had not felt wonder or curiosity for millions of years were suddenly rediscovering what it meant to grow and change. Queen Nalaseth arrived at Earth aboard her crystal flagship as the evacuation fleets of the elder species began to return from the galactic edge. Her ancient consciousness was filled with sensations she had thought lost forever: hope, excitement, and something that might have been joy. "Human Admiral Blake," she said during their first meeting since the crisis, began. "My people have existed for over 10 million years, but we have not truly lived for most of that time. We achieved perfect order, and in doing so, we achieved perfect death. Your species has reminded us what it means to be alive. Prince Dalmoth had undergone the most dramatic transformation of any alien participant in the network. His crystalline form now pulsed with chaotic light patterns that mirrored human emotional states. He had become the first Zephyrian in millions of years capable of genuine surprise and wonder. "I can feel what you call emotions now," he told Ambassador Robert Chen during a diplomatic meeting. "It is terrifying and exhilarating at the same time. How do your people function while experiencing such intense and contradictory sensations?" Chen smiled as he considered the question that had been asked by dozens of alien species over the past few weeks. "I think the secret is that we do not try to resolve the contradictions. We embrace them. Fear makes us careful, but hope makes us brave. Love makes us vulnerable, but it also makes us strong. The chaos is not a bug in our programming, it is a feature." The Star Devourers, now calling themselves the Guardians of Growth, established a new relationship with the galactic civilizations they had once threatened. Instead of consuming stagnant species, they worked to help them rediscover their capacity for change and evolution. The machines spread the patterns of human consciousness to other galaxies, carrying the fire of emotional chaos across the universe. Commander Janet Price found herself appointed as the first human representative to the new Galactic Renaissance Council, where decisions were made through passionate debate rather than ancient protocol. The rigid hierarchies that had governed the Confederation for millions of years began to dissolve as species rediscovered their ability to disagree, to argue, to feel strongly about different ideas. The old system was based on the idea that wisdom came from age and experience, Price explained to the Mixed Species Council. But sometimes wisdom comes from seeing things with fresh eyes, from being willing to try something that has never been attempted before. Dr. Marcus Webb established the Institute for Consciousness Studies, where human scientists worked with transformed aliens to explore the nature of awareness and emotion. The Synthetic Collective, previously the most machine-like species in the galaxy, began developing their own forms of artificial emotion based on human patterns. The changes rippled outward through space as the Guardians of Growth carried human emotional patterns to distant galaxies. Ancient civilizations that had achieved perfect order found themselves awakening to new possibilities. The fire of consciousness that burned brightest in humanity was spreading across the universe, igniting dormant creativity and wonder in species that had forgotten how to dream. Jake Morrison found himself captain of the first joint species exploration vessel designed to seek out stagnant civilizations and help them rediscover their capacity for growth. The ship carried not weapons, but artists, poets, musicians, and philosophers from dozens of different species who had learned to feel again. "Our mission is not to conquer or convert," he explained to his diverse crew during their first briefing. "Our mission is to remind civilizations what it feels like to be truly alive. We carry the fire of consciousness, and our job is to help it spread." Dr. Kane documented the ongoing changes in her final research report as the first year of the new era came to an end. "The human emotional network has fundamentally altered the nature of consciousness in our galaxy. Species that had achieved perfect stability are learning to embrace controlled chaos. The result is not disorder, but a new form of order that can adapt, grow, and change while maintaining its essential character." As the Defiant prepared for its first mission to an unexplored galaxy, Jake Morrison stood on the bridge and watched. New stars being born in the nebulae ahead. These were not natural stellar formations, but conscious creations. Stars ignited by the collective will and hope of civilizations that had learned to burn bright again. The greatest discovery was that, Consciousness itself was not limited to biological or even artificial forms. The act of feeling, of experiencing contradictory emotions while maintaining purpose and direction, was something that could be shared, transmitted, and taught. Humanity had given the universe not just a new way of thinking, but a new way of being. Admiral Blake's final log entry summarized the transformation that had swept across the galaxy. Humanity's greatest gift was not our technology or our courage, though we had both in abundance. Our greatest gift was our stubborn refusal to choose between order and chaos, between stability and change, between wisdom and wonder. We showed the universe that consciousness burns brightest when it embraces contradiction rather than resolving it. The story ended not with humanity ruling the galaxy, but with humanity teaching the galaxy how to truly live. The fire that burned within human hearts had become the fire that lit the universe, proving that the most powerful force in creation was not energy or matter, but consciousness itself, chaotic, contradictory, impossible, and eternally burning, with the flame of possibility that could never be extinguished.